Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Teaching with Inquiry Live. Thank you very much for joining us. I have a quick question for you. How many of you have work-life balance? That's what we're going to be talking about today is, as teachers, how do we create a work-life balance, if that is even possible? And I'm going to share with you maybe why I am not feeling very balanced at the moment and what I'm going to do about it. So if you're new to Teaching with Inquiry Live, my name is Patty. I am a 4-5 split grade teacher, and I blog at madlylearning.com. And I also have a TPT store. And this show that I come to you live every week, and I teach grade 4 and 5 students in Ontario, Canada. When we're talking about work-life balance, I think it's important to say that it is busy. Life is certainly busy. I have 3 kids, ages 7, 4, and almost 2. I work full-time and TPT full-time on the side as well. So figuring out how to strike up a work-life balance is super important. And I'm not feeling 100% great about this right now. So I definitely wanted to address it while I'm feeling it. And my guess is if I'm feeling it, you're probably feeling it too. So it's a good thing to talk about, because when we do have work-life balance, it makes us better teachers. So what the heck are we going to do to get ourselves work-life balanced? So let me start by saying you can't do all the things. It's nearly impossible. And I think for women and teachers, and because teaching is so dominated by women, we put so much pressure on ourselves all of the time to do all of the things. And the very first thing you have to remember is you can't do all the things, and that things have to get off of your list, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to get what's most important done is by being able to get some things off of that hefty mile-long to-do list. And when you can release some of those things, it definitely helps you get a work-life balance. So I am busy. Heather, yes, I get that a lot. Heather says here, I don't know how you manage all of that. Amazing. I get that question a lot, is how do I manage all of this? And that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to talk about that tonight, is how do you actually strike that work-life balance? So first is, don't do all the things. That's for sure. Now, I often think that one of my biggest barriers is the guilt. The guilt of whatever I happen to be doing at the moment means I'm feeling guilty about all of the things that I'm not able to do. So I'm here live with you, and I'm here live every single week, and I absolutely love it. But there's always that sense of guilt too, that I could be doing other things, or that I should be doing other things, that I'm being selfish by taking this time to do a live video when there's other things that I could be doing, including spending time upstairs, vegging out on the couch with my husband, or putting my kids, spending longer time putting them to bed in the evening. There's tons of things that I can do, but there's always that guilty feeling that no matter what I end up doing, there's always that sense of guilt about the things that I could be doing at the exact same time. And it's just unreasonable to put that expectation on yourself that you need to be able to do all of the things all of the time. And you just need to be able to set those priorities to what are you going to do when, and let go of some of that guilt. So make a list. That's my top tip when you're trying to find a work-life balance, is make a list. Make a list of all of the things that you have to do in your life, including remembering when your 4-year-old has library time and need to bring their library book back to class. If that is something you are responsible for remembering, put it on your list. The list is probably going to be a mile long, but write down all of the things that you are responsible for. Because in order to find a work-life balance, you need to take that list, you need to rip it apart and figure out 3 different things of that list. Number 1, you need to figure out what on that list is the absolute most important thing that you can't give up. It's probably going to be the things that only you can do, that there is nobody else that could possibly do these things. It's you. Like this video, for example, it probably wouldn't make much sense if somebody else came on and talked to you on Monday nights. This is something, it's my face, it's something I do. It's something I can probably be the only person that can do and represent what I've got to say and use my voice to share it with everyone who's watching. So find the things on your list that only you can do and prioritize those, because nobody else can do those things. Number 2 is find the things on the list that you can get rid of, that really are not important, that you can let go of, that aren't going to push you forward, that aren't going to give the same bang for your buck. Get rid of all of those auxiliary things on your list that just don't really matter. Get rid of them and try to get rid of as much as possible off your list. Now, some of the things you can't get rid of, but you certainly, if it's something else that you aren't the only person able to do, you can certainly delegate those things and you can share the load with somebody else. So whether you have a partner that you can share that task with, or you can delegate that task to your kids if they're capable of doing it, or you can hire somebody to do it for you, get some of those things off your list and it makes it a little bit easier to manage. So once you have those 3 things done, so you've made your list and you've gone through it and you've kind of categorized your list in terms of things you can totally get rid of right now today that you don't need. You have the things that only you can do that you have to keep doing. And then you have the other things that you can delegate. So look at what's left of your list and try to ask yourself, what are the things that are on there just because you feel guilty about it? So for me, a lot of it is mom guilt. So there's a ton of mom guilt. It's such a real thing, and it's something we have to deal with if you are a working mom with kids. The idea that every minute of your free time is supposed to be with your kids. And when you're not, you're feeling tremendously guilty. In fact, you could probably even feel guilty because you go to work in the morning that you're not there with your kids. Now, for me, I do have a slight advantage here. For I was raised by a working mom. So my expectation of motherhood is that it's okay as a mom to have a career and to want to do really well in your career. So my expectation of what motherhood would look like always involved me working. Some of my friends that are in the same position as me or do the same kind of things as me, if a lot of them, if they were raised by a stay-at-home mom, which is lovely and wonderful, and they're so fortunate for that, but their expectation of what it means to be a mom means that you're not working, except they are working, which means they're trying to do all of the things their mom did for them, and they're trying to do that with their kids, but yet they're working as well. So you're essentially trying to do 2 full-time jobs, and you have a tremendous amount of guilt because you don't have enough time in the day to be a working mom and a stay-at-home mom. And it's okay if you're one or the other. There's nothing wrong with working. Your kids don't see that guilt. It's not on them. They see it's you. That guilt is on you. It's not, your children aren't bearing that guilt. They won't know any different. They're raised in a household with a working mom. That's just their reality. They know that you love them. They know that you're working to be able to provide for them. And the guilt that you feel is more on you, and your kids will probably be fine. Now, you're still going to have a tremendous amount of guilt no matter which way you slice that piece of cake, because it's just a thing that we have to deal with. But it's okay to dial back a little bit and recognize that if your way of mothering is not exactly the same as the way you grew up, that it's okay, and you don't have to set such high expectations for yourself as to what it means. Or if you do, it means other things need to come off your list, because you can't do all of the things. You can't do 110% of your career and 110% of being a stay-at-home mom. It just doesn't work. You can't do all of the things without a tremendous amount of help. So you have to kind of balance those 2 things and figure out where that sense of guilt that you might be feeling is coming from. And I think the other elephant in the room is that although dad guilt is real, there is dad guilt and dads feel guilty, that as a society, men are often rewarded for prioritizing work over their family, but yet women are often criticized and critiqued. So I feel the judgment. I feel judgment. My kids spent a lot of time this summer in camp and they loved every minute of it and they weren't worse for wear. But as a teacher, when I'm asked what I did all summer and revealing that I didn't spend every waking minute with my children at home gets me a lot of judgment, because I didn't spend 100% of my time at home. I prioritized making some things for Teachers Pay Teachers and spending that time putting it together because I find it rewarding to be able to do that. And I find that to be a benefit myself for my own practice. But because I prioritized doing that and agreed to spend some time doing that, and as a result, my children enjoyed their camp experiences, I do receive judgment for that because I'm judged as to why would I put my children in camp as a teacher when I could just stay at home with them the entire time. So I have to just be okay with my choices and own that it's okay that I did what I did and that my kids had an amazing summer with all of the various experiences that they had that they wouldn't have probably had if they were home with me, because I'm just not that fun. I'm not as fun as a 17-year-old camp counselor that has more energy than they know what to do with without having coffee. So that's what I just have to be okay with. And I have to be okay that others might judge me for it, and that's fine. When you're done getting rid of some of the guilt, the putting things on your list, and you're trying to look at what are those things on your list that are generating all of that guilt, and you try to get rid of some of that feeling so that you can still attack those things. The other thing you need to look at is you need to get help. So looking at that list and trying to figure out what are the things that you aren't necessarily the only person on the planet that is able to do, that there are some things that you can ask for help, that although your expectations might be that you should be the one doing it, that other people can help. For instance, even going live tonight and talking to you, I'm not doing it alone. You'll notice that when I go live on this show, that the video gets shared into our various Facebook groups. I'm not actually the one sharing it. I've got some help upstairs, and he is probably watching right now and can give a thumbs up to say, hey, but he's watching and sharing and might even be able to answer some of your questions as they come in, because I'm not able to do it. So he's a tremendous help in me being able to do some of this that makes me available to do these things. And he helps out too by putting our kids to bed on Monday nights and helping a tremendous amount of doing some of the things around the house that I would do if I wasn't doing these kind of things or wasn't even a teacher, because we all know that takes a ton of time too. So you can delegate some of those things. You can ask your kids to pick up some of the slack and have them learn some of those independent skills too, like putting away their laundry and folding it and doing some extra chores around the house to teach them responsibility. You don't have to do all of the things. For example, you may be the person that cleans the dishes, and you may have a hard time letting go of that. And you may not think that somebody else can do the dishes as good as you. And that's probably true. But if somebody else can do the dishes about 50% as well as you, but the dishes get done and you don't have to do them and they're somewhat clean enough to eat off of, I would say that's a win, and let it go. And just let that other person do the dishes for you and be really thankful that you didn't have to do it. I say that's a win, and it's something that you can let go of. I talk a lot about letting go of control in your classroom and letting the students take care of some of those things. Well, let it go at dishes time too, and see whether or not that extra 20 to 30 minutes that you're going to save by not washing the dishes and asking somebody else for help, what can you get done in that 30 minutes that might be worth your more valuable use of your time? So the last thing is the second last thing is don't forget about you. Make sure you carve in some time in your week where you can focus just on you and nobody else, whether it's going to the gym and working out or doing yoga or going on a walk by yourself or going and getting your nails done if that's what you need to do. Make sure that you are setting some time and prioritizing yourself and taking care of your own mental health so that you can decrease some of those anxious, frustrated feelings that might make you unbearable to live with if you don't deal with those feelings and don't get that downtime. I know for me, that's really important because sometimes I can be unbearable to live with if I don't get that alone time. I'm sure my husband is now upstairs nodding his head at that right now, as he knows I can be quite unbearable if I don't get my own downtime. So, and I think the final last thing to do is talk about our life as a teacher and understand that we have a lot of work to get done in the 10 months. Yes, we get those summers off, but we have a lot of work that we need to get done during those 10 months. But try to restrict how much you're getting done in a day. And I try to think of my day as an 8-hour day. Now we have those hours that are in the classroom, and then there's going to be some time outside of our instructional time where we're going to need to get some work done, because there's a lot of things we just simply cannot do when we've got 30 students in front of us. So we have to know that there's going to be a little bit of extra time. Now, the benefit of our job as teachers is that we can flex that time and really use those hours when we have the availability to use them. But if it is outside of those hours, it's time for me to let it go. So if I set that I'm going to have 8 hours a day, maybe I'm an hour before school, an hour after school, and maybe an hour in the evening where I might find some time, or maybe no time in the evening, and maybe that's what I'm doing Sunday afternoon while the baby's napping. Find and carve out your time, and then try to keep your work within that. Think of it like the business perspective. If you're going into business and you're working and your work starts at this time and it ends at this time, there may be a time where you're working over your hours, but you're not just going to keep working until the work is done. You're going to have to end your day at some point and move on. And I think it's important for us to reduce what we are doing and let some things go, remembering that we don't have to have every single minute of instruction planned. We don't have to have all of the answers. We need to have a general idea of where we're going and what we might be doing, but we don't have to have minutia planned. We can also use our professional judgment, and we can allow ourselves the flexibility to veer off the lesson plan. Even I veer off the lesson plan, and I wrote the lesson plan. So my lessons day to day in my classroom don't always look like the lesson plans in my units that I saw on TPT. They're pretty close, but I'm going to tailor it and adjust for the students that are going to be in my classroom, and I'm going to be a bit flexible about what that looks like. I know the big idea, that's what's in my general lesson plan, but my day-to-day plan that I'm going to follow might not follow it to the letter of the law as I had originally written it. And I just have to be okay with that, because I'm still getting the gist of what I meant to do in the classroom. And I can let some of that go and not have everything planned, because it means I'm taking less time to do that. And I can put things off to tomorrow. So if I give a test and it takes me 2 weeks to get it marked because I have a lot of students in my class, then that's how long it's going to take me. And I just have to be okay with that, because life is hectic and busy. And when you're upfront and tell people that, they may grumble a little bit, but they'll be okay with it eventually. Or at least they'll just learn to deal with it, because it's the way things are going to be, because you have things you need to do. So you can let go a little bit of that. So really try to think, and this is a lot too of mental health, try to think about where your limits are. Try to think about what's the most important thing that you need to do, and do that. And the things you can't do, delegate or let somebody else help you. Ask for help. Ask somebody to do it. Say no if somebody's asking you to do something and you just don't have any more bandwidth to be able to fit in their request. It's okay to say no in a pleasant way, so that they understand that you're tapped out and you have no more room for you to say yes anymore. Focus on those things that are important and let go of some of the periphery stuff that is not contributing to you staying in the thing that makes you you and staying in your genius. Because you can't do all of the things, and it's unrealistic to expect yourself to be able to do them. And that is definitely a lesson that I need to remind myself of when I'm feeling overwhelmed like I was, I know, especially today. So thank you very much for joining me tonight for this real talk about doing some of these things. If you are using my Ignited Literacy bundle, I will be going live in my Ignited Literacy pop-up group. If you're not a member, I can put the link in this video here. I'm going to be going live in that group right after I turn off this video to be answering any questions. We've just finished the first 15 days and we're transitioning into the first full week of that unit. So I wanted to give just a little bit of live additional support for that. So if you have purchased any of my Ignited Literacy products, or you are in the Ignited Literacy pop-up group, I would invite you to join me in that group as we go live and talk about that product specifically and how we transition from the getting started portion into the next step. So again, thank you very much for joining me. And if you're in my Ignited Literacy group, I will see you in just a few minutes. Thanks very much. Bye for now.